Hi guys, I'm Dana. I'm not an alcoholic. Hi, it's really good to be here. Tim, thank you so much for asking me to speak. It's my least favorite thing to do here in AA, but I always say yes, and I guess it gets a little better with time. I'd much rather do like any other kind of service work that I possibly can. But when it comes to speaking, I guess just telling the truth is the best that I can do. Yeah, so I'm really glad to be here. It's definitely going to keep me sober today. And yeah, I'll just start with I have a sobriety date. It's August 19th of 2015. I have a sponsor and a couple sponsees, and I have a home group. It's called Never Had a Legal Drink, and it's in Los Angeles, California on Tuesdays at 8:15 p.m. And those three things I feel like are just so important to me to continue to have. And I've had them since like early on. They were suggested to me by my sponsor to keep those things. And it's funny that my home group's called Never Had a Legal Drink because I've had lots of legal drinks. But somehow, I found my way into the young people's community here in Los Angeles. And I'm so grateful I did because it's given me a lot of opportunities to be of service. And it's one of the best parts of my sobriety. Shout out to Lackey Paw. We're bidding on Wacky Paw this year, so super excited. I think it's going to be a really spiritual experience to go to Boise this year. But yeah, so what it was like, what happened, and what it's like now. I grew up here in Los Angeles, in Hollywood. Nightmare for a budding young alcoholic like myself, but I was always kind of like a problem child. I was always getting into trouble. My parents separated early on, and I really felt like I was dealt the crappiest hand of cards that I could have been. So sorry. And I felt like the world owed me something. I felt like I had been shorted in life, and, I acted out a lot. I felt entitled to things. Just a quick example, when I was a kid, I used to like break into my neighbors' houses, and for no other reason but to like eat all their food and like sit at their table. And really what I think it was is like, one of my biggest character defects is fantasy. And I think I just always wanted what I didn't have. So it was and I felt entitled. I felt entitled to everything that the world had to offer. And that carried well into my adulthood. When I was 11, I got arrested at Sanrio Surprises, which is like the Hello Kitty store for anybody that doesn't know, for stealing a lip gloss when I had, the point of it is that I had like all the money in my wallet to buy Christmas presents, but I felt entitled to the lip gloss, for whatever reason. So I took it and, got caught, and my mom had to pick me up at the police station. That was just the first of, many things like that I had to put my mom through. By the time that I had my first drink, it was like a lot of people share about, I needed it. I was just like high stress, high tension all the time, high anxiety kid. And for the first time, it was the effect, like the effect that it produced in me was like, I don't care anymore. I don't care what you think about me. I went to middle school and high school where I was a minority. The part of Hollywood where I grew up in, there wasn't, in the public schools, there wasn't a whole lot of white people. And so I got made fun of a lot, and I was really nerdy with glasses, and I just didn't fit in. And so, by the time I had my first drink, I didn't care that I didn't fit in anymore. And, early on, there was problems for me. Like I blacked out, probably not the first time I drank, but definitely the second through however many times I drank in my teens. And I would get into a lot of trouble in Hollywood. I would get picked up for drunk in public. I had a lot of truancies, and all kinds of things went wrong. And, I would get picked up and brought to the police station. My mom would have to pick me up at the police station. And I just didn't care, my other friends would get grounded, but my mom would always give me the benefit of the doubt. So I felt like I was getting away with things. I always had a reason for the things that I was doing. And I always felt like it was everyone else's fault. Like another character defect, I play the victim all the time. So, I got away with a lot, but the blacking out was a problem. The throwing up and other things all in public and, at friends' houses and at parties, that was a big problem for me. So Probably when I was about 16, I discovered some outside issues, and that enabled me to like finally drink like a lady and get myself, quote unquote, under control. And I did that, and it worked for me for a really, really long time, probably like, 10 years. I was able to continue drinking and go to college. I graduated high school, I went to college. But the thing was that I had this secret, like I went to nursing school and I had to audit these AA classes, 12-step classes. And I never identified the fact that I had a problem because it was working for me. The only place that I kind of thought I might be, I related a little bit in was like Gamblers Anonymous, and I wasn't a gambler. So I don't really know what that was all about, but I didn't think that when I was in college, I didn't think that I had a problem, but I did have this secret that nobody knew about. I was, drinking daily and doing other things on a daily basis. And if I didn't have those things, I would be very ill, often went to class sweating and shaking and all of that stuff, only to get through the class to get what I needed to feel okay. And I chased that for a long time, and, it gets progressively worse. And it did for me. The problem started to happen again. And I failed my nursing board exam. My ex-fiance broke up with me. I had lost the job that I had because I was stealing. It was Bank of America, and I was, stealing money from them. And things just got really bad. And at that point, I said, you know what? Forget it. I'm not even going to try at life anymore. My sole purpose from that point on was to just get loaded from the minute I woke up to the minute I went to bed, which is what I was doing already. But at that point, I stopped trying to have a life. The book talks about frothy emotional appeal. My family, I have a great family. I came from a great family. Even though my parents split up, my mom and my grandma were always so supportive to me. And they tried to help me. They tried to take me to doctors. They tried to take me to psychiatrists. They, tried to get me in outpatient programs, put me in rehabs. And, I went to college. That was all in San Diego, but I moved back to LA thinking, maybe if I move back, I'll be able to at least be functional again. I really never considered the option of getting sober. But I moved back and things just only got worse. Relocating geographic did not help at all. I refused to listen to reason. I wouldn't go to any treatment programs. Or I did go, but ended up getting kicked out because, I kept relapsing. And I didn't want sobriety. I wanted nothing you guys had. I didn't think that there was any possibility that someone like me would be able to get sober. I had crossed that line. All the things that I said that I would never do, once I made that decision that I was going to just get loaded for the rest of my life, I did all of those things, including, doing things intravenously and all that stuff, which, I was working as an extern in the hospital, and I saw how bad the problems people had with that kind of stuff. And I did it anyway. All the things, I did every kind of illegal activity you can imagine. I had to make money somehow to get what I needed. So I did everything from stealing to selling myself to selling things that I stole to just fraud and every kind of thing that you, in a general way, that's not very general, but every kind of thing that you can imagine to do to get what I needed, I did that. And of course, I got in a lot of trouble for all those things. I got arrested. I'm actually working on getting my record expunged right now. And turns out there was over 25 arrests, and this is in a matter of 3 years. So it was I was just continuously getting picked up. They would give me a chance at probation. I would mess it up. I would not make it to court. I had all kinds of warrants and all these things from doing the things that I was doing to get what I needed. And eventually I got arrested one more time, and they were sick of me and, threw me in jail for a prison term. And I was so sick when I took the deal that I, didn't even try to get an inpatient program. I didn't care. And at that time, I really didn't, plan on being sober. So I was like, just give me my time. At least I was homeless before that last arrest. At least there was a roof over my head and I had a hot meal and a warm place to sleep and showers, because that was the thing. So I was, I took my time and, I don't know what happened. They say there's this window, that happens. And like something happened while I was in there, and these women that I was in jail with started to tell me that like, hey, maybe you got arrested for a reason, maybe something out there is trying to save your life. And they say it's all in the seeking that you find. And I was able to find like a higher power while I was in jail. Never even planned on doing that, but I had nobody in there. I was completely alone. And so I started trying to pray, and like weird stuff started to happen. And granted, I was coming off of a lot of stuff, so I had some hallucinations and things, but I started to believe nevertheless. And what happened was I started going to AA meetings in there, and I started seeing a chaplain who introduced me to this gentleman. And he was a sober member of Alcoholics Anonymous, and he started coming in on his own free time to take me through the Big Book while I was in there. He would come in on a Saturday, and I just remember like thinking, why? Like, why would this guy come in, and why does he care about me? And like, now I know it's like for his own recovery, helping others. But it really blew my mind that someone would care enough about me to come in their free time on the weekend to, he was a chaplain at a men's jail, so he never even came to the women's jail except to see me. And that was really awesome. And I actually met my sponsor while I was incarcerated, and she spoke on a panel a couple times while I was in there. I did a total of 18 months in there. And I remember thinking during the panels, and especially my sponsor, like, I never even listened. I've been to rehab or whatever, but I never listened for the similarities. And I like really thought everybody was full of crap before, but like when I, was alone in there in jail and all this stuff, I started to think like, maybe if these people, like if they're really telling the truth, and they're coming in here in their own free time, they're not getting paid to do this, and they're sharing their stories that are possibly like mine. And I started to hear things, and I was like, if they're getting loaded like I'm getting loaded, and they're sober now too and coming in here, like maybe there's a chance for me. And they told me like, when you get out, the first thing you should do in the first 24 hours is go to an AA meeting. So I did that. That was what I did. And when I got out, I went to a meeting like the first day that I got out, and shortly thereafter got a sponsor and got into the steps right away. It was like, how willing was I willing to be? I didn't have a car, so I would have to take like 2 buses and a train to get to my sponsor's home group, but I did that. She told me to like shake people's hands outside of the meeting. I didn't like anybody and didn't want to do that, but I was beaten in jail. I was beaten in jail to a state of reasonableness. I was willing to do whatever it took. And, I tricked myself by saying like, I'm going to give it a year and see what happens. Like if my life isn't better after a year, then like I can go right back to doing what I was doing. But I really didn't want to go back to jail. So I did all the things. I got a sponsor, I got a home group, I got some service commitments. And I was really like lucky early on to meet a bunch of people that like carried me through the process. Like the first, it's just something that I remember. The first meeting that I went to, actually it was the second meeting that I went to, they were all going to a watch after the meeting. And I had no idea what that was, but I don't know if you guys have that where you're from, but here it's where you go to fellowship after the meeting and you watch somebody as they turn 1 year old till midnight. So I did that, and I was so uncomfortable. I wasn't talking to anybody. I didn't know what to do. And like, I had to get money off my food stamp card to like pay for the meal because they didn't take food stamp cards at the restaurant. And some girl chased after me thinking that I was leaving, and that meant so much to me. Again, like the fact that someone cared enough about me, to like chase me down after the meeting. It just kept me coming back, and today my life is so different. Like I shared my sobriety date. I have a little over 3 years sober, and I'm so grateful for my program. I've been going through some really rough times. It was really good in the beginning. Like I was on this pink cloud. I got involved with Lackey Paw, which is the Young People's Committee here in Los Angeles, and, got all these commitments, doing different things on the committee, got involved with general service when I had 6 months sober, like mind blow. I had no idea what was going on in these things, but like, I think the feeling of camaraderie and the feeling that I had a place to go, like I finally had my people, it just kept me willing to do whatever, even the boring general service stuff, because I had no idea what they were talking about in the beginning. And now I'm like going to be the chair of the corrections committee for at the area level here. Like I couldn't even tie my shoes when I got out, you know what I mean? And I have the opportunity to do all these amazing things, and it's really saved my life. And like a month and a half ago, my mom passed away, and like this has been the hardest experience of my entire life. It's something that, a year ago, I never thought I would make it through sober. I wanted to die a year ago. I was like, and it was selfishness, like I didn't want to live without my mom, and the people in AA, my sponsor and my home group and like the meetings and my friends and everybody that I'm able to share the way, like honestly share the way that I feel, have carried me through this whole thing. And, my sponsor said I was in the middle of a spiritual experience when this all was happening. And I was like, screw you. Like, what do you mean? And I've really been able to see what that means, because, this has helped me get so much closer to my higher power. And I do some maintenance things, that I've learned from the steps, like praying and meditating on a daily basis, taking time out to reconnect myself with my higher power. And like the steps have helped me clear that channel. I had so many resentments against so many people, and like my resentments block me. My resentments block me from the stream that is like a constant connection to my higher power. And, like now I'm able to work on those, like as they happen through a daily 10 step, or not even daily 10 step. I'm able to work on those through 10 steps. When something comes up, like I address it. When I do something wrong, I make a direct amends. And, the amends process has been like so amazing for me. I've been able to like rebuild the relationships with my family. I have been able to like restore friendships, and it's always at the exact perfect timing. Some people haven't wanted to talk to me, and that's fine. But, like some people that I've made an amends with were like, you came to me for a reason at this time, because I'm going through X, Y, or Z. And because of this program, like I've been able to show up and be of service in all aspects of my life and in my friendships, and even with people that aren't sober. And AA has really taught me how to do that, and, to be like a decent, civilized human being. Like I used to go to the bathroom on the sidewalk, now I just am blown away by the life that AA has given me. So yeah, I'm really grateful. Thanks all for listening.